Welcome to End Times Talk, everybody, and good morning. I hope you're all doing well. I want to start off today's show by talking about some of the things that are going on right now. Give me a moment to get it all together here. Let me make sure that you can see it full screen here. Iran just struck Saudi Arabia's Aramco Ras Tanura oil refinery. This was last night, obviously, because it was during the daytime over there. And yeah, so this has huge implications for the price of gas going up, price of oil going up, and just kind of edges us closer towards a looming energy crisis. There's a couple things I want to cover before I get into today's teaching that I want to do, but I just want to show you the footage here. It's pretty big hit there, right at the oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. Pretty significant oil refinery as well. So just putting that out there. Then also, this is rather interesting, and this pertains to America. I think this is important. Mamdani, the New York mayor, spoke at a mosque for Ramadan, and they're literally talking about killing of infidels by the sword. And this is New York's mayor. And so the thing is that this really plays into, I think, what's coming to America. And here's the thing, I'm not the only one that has this on their mind. You know, I was doing some research online and just kind of looking into things, and there's actually a lot of people that are in the know that are very concerned about the terrorists that are here in America. A tremendous amount of terrorists, thousands of them, that are trained to kill, being unleashed all at once upon America. And I'm just going to let you listen to this here.
Last Ramadan, I was with many of you here at the procession on the martyrdom anniversary of Imam Ali, alayhi salam. It is a privilege to be here with you once again. I stand before you as the first Muslim mayor in our city's history, and this year as the first Jummah that I have attended in that new position.
In the killing of the infidels by your sword. So this dude, after Mamdani spoke, gets up and start praying about killing of infidels by the sword. And so this lets you know what these people are planning to do here in America. They're not here to assimilate. They're here to take over the country. And I'll be honest with you, they couldn't have picked a worse country to try to come invade. I'm going to be honest with you, because there's some pretty bad to the bone people in America that aren't going to put up with this kind of crap like it's been put up with over in Europe. And they know it. They know it's going to be a bigger fight, a harder fight. And there's more of us than there is of them. Absolutely, 110%. So, with that being said, I want to get into today's teaching. We need to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. Give me a moment here. Put myself back up here. In Jeremiah 49, verse 34, this is an important scripture. We're going to break this down and go through it. Jeremiah 49, verse 34 through 39. The word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam. Elam is modern-day Iran. And the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will break the bow of Elam. So he's saying, behold, I will break the bow of Iran, the chief of their might, and upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation, whether the outcasts of Elam shall not come. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith the Lord, and I will send the sword after them, till I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. Now, this is an important part of the scripture here. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. So this is a past prophecy that had already happened, but also a prophecy, a past event that had happened, but also a prophecy for the future, because it says latter days, and we're going to get into that today. All right. Elam was an ancient civilization that flourished from around 3,200 BC. And I don't go by that BCE crap. I go, BC and AD is the way I go. I don't care the way they changed it. I don't. I really don't. So, but it was a flourished civilization from around 3,200 BC to about 539 BC. In the region that corresponds to modern-day Iran, primarily in the provinces of Khuzestan and Elam, I-L-A-M, Elam, with some extension into southern Iraq. Its capital was Susa, modern Shush, and it played a significant role in the cultural and political development of the area, influencing the later Achaemenid Persian Empire, which eventually absorbed Elam as a province around the 6th century BC. The Elamites spoke a unique language unrelated to Indo-European or Semitic languages, and their culture persisted in elements like administration, art, and language even after Persian conquest. All right. Over time, as Indo-Iranian peoples, including the Persians, migrated into the region, Elam was integrated into the emerging Iranian identity and territories by the Achaemenid period. Elamite traditions were woven into Persian governance, with Susa becoming one of the empire's key capitals. Today, the name Elam does survive in the modern Iranian province of Elam, I-L-A-M, Elam, underscoring the direct geophysical historical link. All right, very important to understand that Elam is modern day Iran. And there are actually some pretty well known. Hey, Joppy, hi, Dark Dago, good to see y'all here. River Rat, good to see you. Sanchez, good to see you. But they want, there are some pretty popular influencers, will say, they want you to believe that Elam is not Iran, and that what's happening right now has nothing to do with this prophecy in Jeremiah 49, verse 34 through 39. And it absolutely does. Now, I want to break down the word latter here a little bit. We're going to give some examples and go through some stuff here. In the Bible, the concepts of the early rain, also called former rain, and latter rain originate from the agricultural cycle in ancient Israel, where the early rain falls in autumn to soften the ground for planting and germination, while the latter rain comes in spring to ripen the crops for harvest. The latter rain. So the latter rain comes later. All right, later, get it? Prophetically, these rains symbolize two phases of God's spiritual outpouring through the Holy Spirit. The early rain representing the initial empowerment of the early church, e.g. at Pentecost, and the latter rain signifying a future intensified outpouring to mature believers and prepare the church for the end times harvest, often linked to the second coming of Christ. In Joel 2:23-29 says, "Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the former rain faithfully, and he will cause the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the latter rain. In the first month the threshing floor shall be full of wheat, and the vat shall overflow with new wine and oil. And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also on my men servants and on my maid servants I will pour out my spirit in those days." So he's speaking of something later on. When it says latter, it means later on. A end times prophetic fulfillment. Okay? So when we see, in the Elam prophecy, all right, where it talks about in the latter days, what do you think that means? It means later on. Now, here's another example. "Therefore, be patient, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, waiting patiently for it until it receives the early and latter rain. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand." James 5:7-8. Now, it also says in Deuteronomy 11:13-14, God promises the early and latter rains as a blessing for obedience, symbolizing ongoing spiritual provision. In Hosea 6:3 says, let us pursue the knowledge of the Lord. He will come to us like the rain, like the latter and former rain to the earth. All right, so all of this reinforces the idea that latter means later on. The interpretation that latter refers to a future event stems from the agricultural analogy and its prophetic application. In farming, the latter rain is the final one before the harvest, essentially for ripening. So when it says latter, I believe that this is definitely indicative of something that's to happen before a pre-tribulation rapture, because I see the pre-tribulation rapture as a harvest. Okay? It's one of the harvests. All right? It's the harvest of the wheat. I truly believe that. All right, so I think that when it implies in the Elam prophecy in Jeremiah 49 verses 34-39, it's implying that this is something that's going to happen before the rapture, and we're seeing it, and we're going to break it down. Like what's crazy is what I'm trying to say is I believe that this is proof we're even closer to a pre-tribulation rapture, and of course each second that ticks by we're closer to a pre-tribulation rapture. But I believe that this is a big sign, a huge sign. All right, and James explicitly connects it to the coming of the Lord, indicating an end times context where believers must wait patiently, just as farmers do for the latter rain. Joel's vision extends the latter rain to afterward. Joel 2:28, leading into signs of the last days, which early Christian writers like Peter applied partially to Pentecost, all right, in Acts 2:16-21, but left the fuller outpouring for the future. All right. So there's plenty of symbolism in the Bible that latter, okay, actually is important and indicative of things to happen before a pre-tribulation rapture, before the wheat harvest comes in. All right. And so when it's talking about latter, I really think that it's alluding to that time frame. So when you see in Jeremiah 49 verses in verse 39, we'll say, okay, just summing it up here, it says, "But it shall come to pass in the latter days." So the way I read that is, but it shall come to pass in the last days before the rapture, before the pre-tribulation rapture takes place. All right, that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. And we're going to break this scripture down, but I wanted to go through the latter part of it because I want people to understand it's very significant. The prophecy concerning Elam in Jeremiah 49 verses 34-39 is often interpreted in Christian eschatology as having both historical and future end times fulfillments. All right. God promises to break the bow symbolizing military strength, because Elam was known for its archers. Talks about scatter its people like winds, bring dismay and disaster, and destroy its leadership. All of this can directly fulfill what's happening right now. All right, I'm trying to encourage people here and show you you're closer to the pre-tribulation rapture than what you can even begin to understand. In the latter days, God will restore Elam's fortunes and bring back its captives. Elam was an ancient civilization located in what is now Iran, primarily in the modern provinces of Khuzestan and Elam, with its capital at Susa. It extended into parts of southern Iraq and was a key player in Mesopotamian history, often clashing with Assyria and Babylon. By the 6th century BC, Elam had been absorbed into the emerging Persian Empire. The Persians, Indo-Iranian migrants, integrated Elamite culture, administration, and language into their own, making Elam a core province of ancient Persia, what we now call Iran. The name Elam even persists in the modern Iranian province of Elam. You see, it sticks around. It's still there. It's very important. This gets wild. We're going to get into it more. Trust me. Historical fulfillment of the judgment happened in 596 BC. Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar, and we're going to talk about Nebuchadnezzar in a little bit, conquered Elam. It was Nebuchadnezzar that conquered Elam, fulfilling the immediate prophecy of scattering and disaster. Then in 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered Babylon. So, the Medes and the Persians conquered Babylon, incorporating Elam fully into the Medo-Persian Empire. This aligns with the setting, my throne in Elam, a Persian rule established at Susa, and partial restoration under Persian dominance. This direct link, ancient Elam becoming the heart of Persia-Iran, underpins why modern interpreters apply the prophecy to Iran. Now, biblical terms frequently used for end times eschatology refer to events leading up to or during the Messianic age, like the tribulation or Christ's return. There's examples in Isaiah 2:2, Daniel 10:14, Hosea 3:5, and Acts 2:17. It's not just historical, but prophetic of future divine intervention. In Jeremiah 49:39, the restoration is explicitly placed in the latter days, suggesting a dual fulfillment, partial in history, which was Persia's rise, but ultimate in the future, what we're seeing now. This mirrors patterns in biblical prophecy where initial events foreshadow greater end times ones, like the former and latter rains in Joel 2, as we discussed previously. The application to modern Iran, since Elam is ancient Iran, many scholars and prophecy teachers see this as pointing to Iran's role in end times events. Now let's break this down here. Oh, we're going to get into it here. Breaking the bow is interpreted as dismantling Iran's military power. Look what just happened. Like its nuclear program and missile capabilities. All right. The bow symbolizing advanced weaponry. That's what it represents. So when God's breaking the bow, snapping it in half, it's God destroying the weaponry of Iran. What do you think just happened, everybody? What do you think's happening? And the recent tensions that we're seeing from the Israeli and U.S. strikes on Iran is absolutely, I think, early signs of that. And I think it's going to get more intense, okay? Because prophecy's being fulfilled. We're in a birthing pain right now. You best expect it. Now, the scattering that it talks about, where God says that he will scatter them towards all those winds, all right, refers to the Iranian diaspora. Millions of Iranians have fled Iran due to political instability. There's Iranians in every country because of the political instability that's taking place right now and the economic issues because of what's happening, because of the internet being shut down and the majority of the younger generations in Iran make their living online. They've left. And especially because of the regime oppression, this has caused a scattering worldwide. And they're estimating over 1 million in the U.S. alone. 1 million Iranians in the U.S. alone. This absolutely aligns with four winds, scattering exiles to every nation. Do you see the prophecy being fulfilled that I'm trying to show you right now? It's right in front of you. Now, when God says he's going to set his throne in Elam, I think it symbolizes divine sovereignty over Iran. Through regime change or even spiritual revival, which we're seeing because the Iranian church is growing, and it's growing so much that 80% of Iran hates this regime and wants change. And I believe this absolutely points to a growing underground Christianity in Iran. And they're saying that the estimates of the believers in the underground Christian church in Iran are anywhere from 1 to 3 million believers, even despite persecution. And I think that this is an absolute sign of future restoration. And the restoration, a future turnaround where Iran is blessed tying to broader prophecies like Ezekiel 38 and 39, where Persia, Iran joins a coalition against Israel because eventually they turn their backs on them, but is ultimately defeated by God, leading to a global recognition of him. I think what we're seeing is leading, without the bow of Elam being broken prophecy, we can't have Ezekiel 38 and 39. But because this is taking place, because Iran wants to do everything on their own. They want to be a superpower in the Middle East. God's not going to allow it. And so because he's knocking them down to size, when it does come for Ezekiel 38 and 39 to take place, Iran is going to have to join, Elam is going to have to join a coalition to come against Israel with the rest of them. This prophecy does not stand alone. Iran's end times role is echoed, again, like I said, in Ezekiel 38:5, where its allies, I believe, with the spiritual forces Gog and Magog, because Gog and Magog is talked about in the Millennial Kingdom, that final war that's in the Millennial Kingdom. All right. I think the latter days in Jeremiah aligns with this timeline, suggesting Iran's current anti-Israel stance and alliances, even though you see some people that are becoming pro-Israel in the streets, Iran is still very much anti-Israel. And I think what we're seeing right here are prophetic setups for further prophetic fulfillment. And so, in a nutshell, the Elam prophecy connects modern Iran through historical geography and the latter days phrase, which elevates it from mere ancient history to a future-oriented promise of judgment followed by restoration that's going to play out in today's Middle East dynamics that are happening right now. The prophecies in Ezekiel 38 and 39 and Jeremiah 49 concerning Elam are often seen in eschatology as interconnected end times events. Jeremiah 49, 34 through 39, all right, as discussed previously, focuses on Elam, which corresponds to modern Iran. The breaking of the bow symbolizes the dismantling of Elam's primary strength, interpreted historically as archery and military prowess, but prophetically as modern weaponry such as missiles or nuclear programs. After disaster, scattering, and God's throne being set in Elam, I believe a revival. I believe God's throne being set in Elam is talk about revival. I really do. That's the way I interpret it. And that's my opinion. I have that right. Okay. I think all of that is very important and plays right into Ezekiel 38 and 39 that describes a massive invasion of Israel in the latter days, in the latter years, by a coalition led by Gog and Magog. I think that has a lot of spiritual implications, almost like some principalities. I see Gog and Magog as principalities. Some people would identify them as Russia or a northern power, but Rosh is Russia when it talks to it. So it talks about Rosh and Persia and Cush in the Sudan, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer and Togarmah, which is like the Turkey regions, and a few others in Ezekiel 38, 5 through 6. Israel is described as dwelling securely because after they take out Iran, we have an ability for Iran after the war with Hamas, the war with Hezbollah, and the war that's happening with Iran, for Israel to feel safer than they've ever felt before. What do you think? But the invaders come like a storm for plunder. God puts a hook in their jaw and pulls them in so he can demonstrate and he can intervene supernaturally with earthquakes, pestilence, hail, and fire, destroying the armies on Israel's mountains. And the aftermath will lead to global recognition of the God of Israel. You know, they're anti-Semitic now, but every knee's going to bow and every tongue's going to confess. I'm telling you what. And there's going to be a spiritual renewal in Israel, and I believe Jews are going to be saved like the world has never seen. You get what I'm saying? Do you see where all this is leading? Are you understanding the prophetic implications of all of this? There's a chronological link between Jeremiah and Ezekiel. The breaking of the bow could represent a preemptive strike or catastrophe, obviously, that cripples Iran's military. I believe we're seeing that. These are viewed by some as partial fulfillments or even foreshadowing. The scattering Iranians, the diaspora, and dismaying the nation before enemies. Jeremiah 49:37. This weakens Iran, but doesn't eliminate it entirely, allowing for the promised restoration, perhaps through internal changes like the growth of underground Christianity in Iran and regime collapse, which would be setting God's throne in the region. Because God's throne, I mean, is people. I mean, you know, Christianity can symbolize that. Post-judgment of Iran, a humbled or desperate Iran joins the Northern Alliance, possibly under, different influences in the Middle East, but they want to join it to invade Israel. And this could fit because Ezekiel mentions Persia, which is broader Iran, suggesting Elam's southwestern region, the nuclear heartland, might be devastated or neutralized beforehand, like in what's happening right now in the war, leaving the rest of Iran to participate in the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. The breaking of the bow could explain why Iran doesn't lead, but allies with Gog and Magog. You see, because Iran would love to lead that warfare against Israel and push them into the sea. Remember what they've always said? They're haughty and high and proud words. And they're going to seek recovery through conquest or alliances. I believe we should be seeing this as Iran regrouping after the Jeremiah's disaster, only to face their final defeat in Ezekiel. But both occur in the latter period. I believe just before the Great Tribulation. And I believe because Ezekiel 38 and 39 talk about the weapons being burned for 7 years, that 7 years is alluding to the Great Tribulation. And I believe that once this all takes place, the World War III in the Middle East, culminating with Ezekiel 38 and 39, this coalition coming against Israel, and God going wham and laying the smack down on Israel's enemies and causing the whole world to quake and shake at the presence of his might and power, will finally make way for one, Jews to get saved and come to Jesus, but also the world will finally see how powerful God is. What they wouldn't want to see, what they didn't want to see before. Both occur in the latter period, potentially during this pre-Great Tribulation time frame, which I think we're already in, with Jeremiah as a precursor to Ezekiel's global showdown. And it talks about Tarshish and the young lions thereof being against this event that takes place. And I truly believe that America is still around in this time frame in World War III, because Tarshish is Europe, specifically Great Britain, and the young lions thereof, America came from England, from Great Britain. So the young lions thereof would be America and the United States, the young lions. And there is symbolism in America that America be symbolized by lions. Absolutely. Earth's upheavals in Ezekiel might even fulfill remaining aspects of Jeremiah's scattering if tied to Elam's seismic prone areas. So like when the world quakes and shakes, right? Ezekiel's war will end with Iran's forces decimated. All right? And it's going to pave a path for a false peace for the Antichrist to arise out of. Does it make sense? Raise your hand if this makes sense to you. If it doesn't, yeah, I like this comment right here. Albert Pike's letter, World War III to a point playing out in conjunction with God's holy word, proves God's word. Lay it on him, Josh. Oh, I am. And I hope people are getting it. I know we're kind of getting deep today, but, occasionally we do that here. I think it's important to look at what World War III is going to be, and I want to break it down from the very beginning, okay? And I'm going to start here, and I know it seems going to be a little extensive, but you need to understand the bigger picture here, all right? So we're going to go down the rabbit hole, the biblical rabbit hole together. So let me get a drink. Hold on. Man, I tell you, God bless cold water. Whew. In the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign over Babylon, the mighty king was disturbed by vivid dreams that shattered his sleep, as Daniel 2:1-3 records. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep broke from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Nebuchadnezzar demanded not only the interpretation, but also the dream itself, threatening death to his wise men if they failed. Verses 4-13. The Chaldeans protested, saying no man could reveal such secrets except the gods. This setup highlights human limitations and sets the stage for God's intervention through Daniel. Brothers and sisters, I want you to know this reminds us that the worldly wisdom falters where divine revelation shines. All right? In Proverbs 21:1 declares, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Now, when the decree went out to slay the wise men, Daniel and his companions sought mercy from, I don't know how to say this, Arioch, Rioch, Arioch, Artichoke, Arioch the Artichoke. Sorry, I'd make a joke there. Some of these names I'm not good at pronouncing. The captain of the guard, in Babylon, he requested time to seek the Lord, verses 17 through 19. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of God of heaven concerning this secret. Daniel, so that way Daniel and his friends wouldn't perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. So they're like, God, they're going to kill us all. We need your help. Then was the secret revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed God. Amen to that. Daniel's response was praise. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his, and he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. That would be verses 20 through 21. Here we learn a vital importance. In crises, turn to prayer. God alone holds the keys to mysteries, as James 1:5 encourages us to ask for wisdom. All right. Daniel approached the king. He approached King Nebuchadnezzar, and he gave God the credit for the revelation that he had received. He described the dream vividly by saying, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. That's very important. Upon the feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them into pieces. Then was the iron and clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken into pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that broke the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Now, if you know anything about New Jerusalem and its dimensions being 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles tall, all right, I mean, it's, it could be square or it could be a pyramid, okay, when it comes to the shape dimensions that we see. And if Jesus is the capstone, the top, and he's going to sit at the top, it makes more sense it to be a pyramid. And I think Satan's just trying to recreate what he was seeing built in heaven with all these pyramids all over the planet. I'm going to give you that, okay? I'm going to give you that, all right? That's just my opinion. But, all right, and a mountain is pointy, right? Like a triangle. It's not square, all right? Because it was a great mountain that filled the whole earth, right? So I think it's a pyramid, but not a pyramid per se, the way that we would think, but a triangle-shaped New Jerusalem. That's what I believe, all right? That's my opinion. All right, but if you know anything about how big that is, 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles tall, squared, you know what I mean? That's a big kingdom. That's a big mountain, and it would just about fill the whole earth, and it'd be up into outer space. It almost would seem like. All right. So imagine, all right, this colossal statue, all right, in this dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, majestic and composite, symbolizing the fragility of the earthly empires. Like, and it goes like this. Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and the revived Roman Empire. And then the 10 kingdom order that's coming. Okay. The 10 toes. All right. All right. Now, Daniel boldly interpreted the dream, and he said this. He said, This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. Thou art this head of gold. So Babylon was the head of gold. So under Nebuchadnezzar was the golden head, opulent and supreme at the very top. Then the progression of kingdoms. And after these shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over the earth. History confirms this as the silver chest and arms, the Medes and the Persian Empire, conquering Babylon in 539 BC. And we were just talking about Elam and all that stuff, okay? It all correlates, all right? It all correlates. Nebuchadnezzar conquered them, but then they came and they conquered Nebuchadnezzar, all right, followed by the brass belly and thighs, which is the Grecian Empire under Alexander the Great that was broken into 4 pieces, and the 4 quarters of it were given to the 4 generals of Alexander the Great after he passed away. And it is out of one of those 4 corners, the northern corner, where the Antichrist will arise, and Daniel hones in on this, okay? The iron legs, and the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as so much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. This points to the Roman Empire, known for its military might and conquests. And finally, the feet and the toes. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes part of potter's clay, remember, we're clay in the potter's hands, so it can represent human flesh, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall, and iron can represent technology, we'll get there in a moment, but the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as so much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. This divided kingdom emerges from Rome's legacy. There's 2 legs of iron, Rome East and Rome West. There were 2 different parts of Rome, Rome East and Rome West. Hence why the 2 legs. Same with the arms and chest of silver. You have 2 arms of silver, the Medes and the Persians. They came together to overthrow Babylon. Are you getting it so far? Now, this divided kingdom emerges from Rome's legacy, strong yet brittle, unable to fully unite. Then the climax, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. That's the New Jerusalem. That's the millennial kingdom. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, that God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation of it is sure. Verses 44 through 45. Nebuchadnezzar literally fell down and acknowledged Daniel's God, verses 46 through 47, and promoted him, verses 48 and 49, teaching. The teaching is clear. Earthly powers are going to rise and they're going to fall, but God's kingdom is going to endure eternally. And we await the stone, Jesus Christ, who will shatter all opposition at his return. He is the foundation, the rock of ages. The rock of ages. Jesus Christ is the rock of ages. And remember, we're going to get into this a little deep here, all right? So I don't want to throw anybody off. Hear me out here. Don't just, change the channel or anything like that. But I want you to really pay attention to what I'm about to say. It's about to get really interesting. Now, if we apply this prophecy to the times that we're living in, all right, many scholars see the feet and toes as an end times revival of the Roman Empire's influence. A global system divided yet attempting unity. The mixture of iron and clay speaks to incompatible elements forced together, leading to instability. All right. The clay and iron feet not only represents divided kingdoms, but also symbolize the merging of technology with human flesh. We're clay in the potter's hands, and the iron can represent technology, which can also represent a transhumanist agenda where man tries to play God. And the phrase, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, hints at an unnatural union. And in today's world, this could manifest as like the Neuralink, the neural implants, like Neuralink chips that interface brains with computers, blending organic clay, humanity, as in Genesis 2:7, where man is formed from clay and dust, with mechanical iron, which is technology, genetic engineering, such as CRISPR editing human DNA, and cyborg enhancements with prosthetics and AI, creating hybrids that shall not cleave fully, strong in capability but brittle in ethics and identity, and AI human integration where algorithms control the thoughts or augment bodies, echoing warnings and revelation about the mark of the beast, where they're going to put a mark in the right hand or in the forehead. That's that technology coming into the flesh. Okay? Now, this fusion promises strength but delivers division, as iron, which is rigid tech, doesn't bond with miry clay, which is fragile humanity, leading to societal breakdown. And even there's a good image of this, I think, in Revelation, where we see how the people who take the mark of the beast are going to break out in boils. The technology isn't going to merge well with the flesh. All right? This fusion promises strength but delivers division. Okay? In current geopolitics, this division manifests in blocks. All right? Hold on, I got ahead of myself here. The clay and iron represent also ideological clashes as well. I think there's a two-pronged meaning to the iron mixed with miry clay. It's not just human flesh and technology representing iron and flesh representing the clay, because we're made from the dirt, right? But clay is democracy, which is malleable and people formed like potter's clay, and iron as communism, oppressive like the Iron Curtain in the Cold War. You know how they talked about the Iron Curtain? So communism can be represented by iron, and clay can be represented by democracy. Democracy bends to public will, while communism crushes opposition. Yet they mingle in global alliances without true cohesion. All right, here we go. We're getting somewhere here. In current geopolitics, this division manifests in blocks like BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and obviously expanding members. As the iron, a rising authoritarian axis with communist roots, like China's CCP, Russia's Putin era control, emphasizing state power and economic might. And that's why Iran was part of BRICS. You know what I mean? Emphasizing state power and economic might. And NATO, conversely, is the clay, a democratic alliance of Western nations, flexible but often fractured by internal debates and elections. Because it's, supposedly, so even though they give us our leaders, they really do, they give people the illusion of choice, right? So prophetically, World War III could arise from this clash between BRICS, which is the iron, challenging NATO, which is the clay, over resources, territories, ideologies, mirroring defeats, instability, ending up in 10 toes, 10 kingdoms. So it's not working in the feet, and so they come out into 10 toes as the compromise. This conflict might escalate through proxy wars, cyber attacks, direct confrontations like we're seeing already in Iran, that's going to fulfill the partly strong and partly broken nature, but the outcome will be the 10 toes that symbolize a restructured world order. 10 kingdoms, regions emerging from the ashes of World War III. And I show it all the time, and I'm going to show it again. Obviously, you know it's coming. Boom. Right there. This aligns with Revelation 17, 12 through 13's 10 kings who receive power for 1 hour with the beast, because the beast rises up out of the midst of the 10 kingdoms, 10 kings, forming a short-lived global system for 7 years before the return of Jesus Christ, which is the mountain, the mountain formed without hands that comes and destroys the feet because that's the kingdom, that those 10 kingdoms is the government in place at the time. And because of that's destruction, the whole entire statue falls apart. You get what I'm saying? So Christ undoes everything and establishes his everlasting kingdom on this earth. This 10 kingdom endgame would be the ultimate divided empire, attempting one world governance, but doomed to fail when the stone, Jesus Christ and his kingdom, strikes. As Daniel 2:45 assures, the dream is certain, God's plan prevails. You're in it now. I think everything that we've been talking about on this channel is starting to begin to culminate, and we're literally like, it blows my mind to see everything that's taking place and how shocking it is to me to see, for the world to see this happening and not get the meaning of it, to not get the interpretation of what's happening prophetically right before our very eyes and how prophecy is being fulfilled. I mean, I've told you about how Joel chapter 2 and 3 are being fulfilled, have basically been fulfilled, and this next step into the Iranian territory is fulfilling the bow of Elam being broken. It's absolutely insane to me what's going on right now. But there are difficult times ahead. I can't promise you when the pre-tribulation rapture is going to be, but I know it's coming soon. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to be honest with you, don't shut this off, because let me finish what I'm about to say. I'm going to say one thing, and people will be like, "Oh man," and they're going to click, and they're going to turn this off, and they're going to miss the other half of what I'm about to say. As of last year, I thought we had about 10 more years left. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like, we're gonna see this for a while, because the 10 kingdoms aren't forming fast enough. This coalition you see on the map before you isn't forming fast enough, is what I thought. And now, man, with the speed of which things are taking place and the things that are happening globally, and now that World War III has begun, okay, now that World War III has begun, I truly believe we're, 2-3 years out. I know people want to hear it's now, but I'm always in it for the long haul. All right. I prepare for the worst, but pray for the best. I pray it's today. And it absolutely can be. There's no time frame between pre-tribulation rapture and great tribulation. There's no, in that window, it could be 10 years. And after we're gone, then the 10 kingdoms fully form. But I truly believed World War III had to start before I could really start to get on board with the rapture is absolutely imminent. And it just started. It just started. And so I'm leaning more towards now it's just absolutely at the door. I'll be honest with you. The moments that I've been having with God privately, like before I go live, I've been spending like a half an hour just spending time with the Lord, and it's been so precious. Just turning on some worship music and even standing in my office and lifting up my hands to God, asking God to correct the things inside of me that he desires to change. Because I want my life that I live to be pleasing to him. And I want what God's doing in my life to be an example to other people. And I'm not perfect. I get it wrong, man. I got an attitude. Like I do. I get an attitude, man. Like I grew up rough, man. Like I grew straight up in the ghetto. And I'll tell you, I'm I've lived a rough life, but I know and I see that God is tenderly taking out of me the things that he doesn't want, and he's doing it on such a level. He's so patient with me. He's so tender with me, and he loves me so much. And it just absolutely is changing my life. And I see on a whole nother level of what God's doing. I see a whole nother level of what God's doing in my life. And I'm so excited to be alive in this time. I'm so excited to see what's happening before me. I'm so excited to see that God is doing amazing things, that prophecy is being fulfilled. But like I was saying, rough times are ahead, and we need to take that seriously. We've got to take it seriously now. With that being said, Iranian cleric issues fatwa for jihad after Khamenei's death in U.S.-Israeli strikes. The Grand Ayatollah Nasser Makarem Shirazi, a 99-year-old Shia authority, issued the fatwa on Sunday, that's yesterday, calling for vengeance against the U.S. and Israel, the religious duty of all Muslims. The edict following Khamenei's killing late Saturday and strikes on Iranian nuclear and military sites amid months of tensions over Iran's nuclear program and proxy attacks. Iran retaliated with missile and drone strikes that killed 3 American soldiers as protests erupted across the Middle East, including deadly clashes in Pakistan. And yeah, there were Pakistanis that were killed because they tried storming a U.S. consulate, and they FAFO'd. All right. And President Trump stated the operation is ahead of schedule and could continue for weeks, to flatten the curve, while the region braces for more conflict. And so now this old fart has declared war against the U.S. on a civilian level, saying it's the duty of all Muslims to kill United States citizens. And that's where it's all going. Right here, this guy's obviously a Muslim, talking about Judeo-Christian crusade needs to be brought to a decisive end. These are people that want to kill you, and they're out there. Ric Flair. So what I've been saying is coming is just begun. And the chaos that is coming to America, the things we've seen already, we saw an attack in Ohio, we saw an attack in Texas. They're saying that this attack in Washington, D.C., where this woman and her dog was stabbed to death. Why would you stab the dog? Muslims hate dogs. Muslims hate dogs. Why would you take the time to kill someone's dog unless you're a Muslim? So this woman and this dog were stabbed to death, and then there was like 3 other people injured right on the highway. Right on the highway. This guy was aggressively road raging this woman and stopped and stabbed her to death and her dog. I believe it. I don't care what their narrative is saying it's not a Muslim. It absolutely is. So we're already starting to see civilian attacks, but I believe there's an event coming where things are going to get pretty brutal. And I told you what I told you today because I want you to see how close it is. And as persecution unravels towards Christians, even in our own country, I want you to have some hope. Difficult times are ahead, absolutely. But I'm telling you right now, time is extremely short. There's something different about the sky. There's something different about when you look outside and you look up and you see the clear blue sky and the sunshine and There's just something different about it. I'm sorry if I tear up, but this is coming from the bottom of my heart. I've been locked up before. I did a year's time for theft, and that time was very difficult. And there's been a few times I've been in jail. One time was for unlawful use of a motor vehicle. I sat a good long while for that. And the thing is I know what it feels like to be locked up and to look outside and to see the bright blue sky and the sun shining and know that you're about to get out and be free. And there's just something about it right now. As I look out my window and I look up at the blue sky and I see the sun shining. Obviously, we're in a prison planet and we're encaged in. This isn't our home. We're aliens on a foreign planet. This isn't where we belong. And that feeling of you're about to be free, that just crosses my mind. It just crosses my mind like it ain't going to be much longer and we're going to be set free from this. It's the same feeling that I got when I got released from lockup. The few times that I've been in lockup is, when you've been in this dark cell, this dark room that's just dimly lit and with all these dudes. And to be set free in that, when you step outside and you smell that fresh air in the springtime, I see this resemblance, I don't know how to explain it to you. I see it. I feel it. I really do think the rapture's coming soon. And with that being said, you have to do your part. If you look at all of the scriptures, there's multiple scriptures that basically outline what I'm about to say now, that God is patient and long-suffering for the fruit of the earth, that none should perish. There's other scriptures that say it a little differently, and it says it multiple times throughout the Word of God. And I think because of that scripture, God is showing you have to do your part for the rapture to come too. Get out there and evangelize. Get out there and win some souls for Christ. Get on fire for God. I pray the boldness of lions upon you, that you can utter the voice of God right out your mouth, and that people will feel the Holy Spirit as you speak, and that you'll win many, many people to the kingdom of Christ. Each and every single one of you. You all have a ministry that God's given you, and time is short. Do everything that you can to further his kingdom, because I think that's what's going to speed up his coming. I really do. I really believe that, because Jesus is patient and long-suffering for the fruit of the earth, and if God's people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, he's going to be patient and he's going to be long-suffering. But if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're upholding our end of the deal here on earth, well then, what does that say to you? May God bless you all. May he keep you this day, this beautiful day. And make sure you go out and you win some hearts for Jesus, and you further his kingdom and change this world in which you live.